Hello everyone! Welcome back to our modifier tutorial series. Today, I will show you how to work with the Partial Planner module and how to create Flexmon Partials. The latter begins at the 30-minute mark. Our project is already created, the model's imported, and we have a pre-made setup. As always, we choose our user and our license package. The setup always starts in the construction type selector. So all we do now is to open up the Partial Planner module. First, we have to choose whether we continue with the upper or lower jaw. It's going to be the lower jaw in this case. We proceed with our blockout and choose our insert direction. Make sure to allow some undercuts so we have some retentive areas for our partial. Once the blockout model is generated, we then continue into modeling. Here we can smooth and apply a little bit of material, especially in the proximal areas towards the gap, so that later our partial can enter without jamming. Let's hop over to the other side and just smooth this area as well, before hitting next. Now the software initializes the partial design. The Partial Planner module is split up into two main categories. First, we have the primary designs for the four major parts of our partial, and then we have additional designs which we can use to complement our framework. We also have the possibility to open up the tooth placement once again if you would like to modify it. Usually, I always start right away with the clasps. These can be drawn as a line or with a margin. I start off with the line tool. Let's also activate the undercut visualization down to the left, and then via left click, we just draw a line on the tooth. Once done, we double click to confirm. The modifier has 3 different profile sizes, together with 5 different profile types. For the profile parameters, we have the width, the thickness, and the percentage of how much the end segment should be affected by those settings. We can also round off any sharp edges with a single button. Then, let's make everything a little bit transparent so we can start moving our points and shaping our clasp. As a tip, with Shift and Scroll, we can change both the width and thickness. With Control, we can change only the thickness. And with Control plus Shift, we change only the width. With that in mind, we now start positioning our points and modifying the dimensions of the clasp accordingly. Of course, whenever we create an occlusal stop, we always double-check with the antagonist to make sure we have the vertical space for it. Once our clasp is done and we're happy with it, we proceed with creating the next one by clicking on Add. This time, we're going to use the margin option. The margin tool allows us to draw the outer shape of the clasp, which gives you the possibility to draw very complex shapes with ease. The only parameter for these types of clasps is the thickness, which always correlates with the width. So make sure your points are placed wide enough apart if you want it to be a little bit thicker. I will now add the last clasp on the molar. We will also have the possibility later to freeform our elements, so don't worry too much if the surface in certain areas is a bit too thin or too thick right now. After completing the clasps, click on Save to go back to the partial design mode. This acts as our main hub for this module, which you'll frequently come back to. The next primary design is the grid. Here we have the possibility to draw the outer margin for our grid area, where we would then proceed with the acrylic completion. Once the grid outline is drawn, we can choose between different grid profiles, or we can also leave it completely closed. For this one, we stick with the holes. There is a parameter for the resin gap, which can also be deactivated if we want it directly on the blockout. But since we need some space for the acrylic, we're going to leave it active for this project. You can choose the grid thickness and the hole diameter, which you can also adjust via Shift and Scroll. Additionally, you can also activate or deactivate a border around the grid. If you right-click on any parameter, you can always save it to your user profile. Then we click on Apply. At any stage during the partial design mode, you can always right-click on any elements you've created, choosing to either remove or edit them. Once Edit has been selected, we jump right back in, reposition our points, and click on Apply. Next are the finish lines, which I will lay right next to the grid area. Here we just draw a small line and double-click to confirm it. Now we get this geometry with two adjustable edges, where we can change the general width, the thickness, and the angle for either side. From there, we can start moving our points and shaping the finish line. Once done, we add the finish line for the other side. In this area, we are going to create a STEGO, so we will approach it a bit differently. Once again, we change the thickness, and then we make sure we incline it in the opposite direction so we can later insert the denture segment from below. So we move the points in position, make sure we also have a small contact to the clasp, and click on Save. Now we use the connector mode to draw our sublingual bar. Use the major connector and start by placing your control points via clicking. I find it's a bit easier to round off and shape my connectors if I have fewer points, so I usually tend to delete most of them to get clean curves. As a small disclaimer, I designed these dental prosthetics you see in these videos, always to the best of my knowledge. But I still have a lot to learn, so please focus mainly on the functions I show instead of the shapes I design using them. To the left, we have different options. We can apply a texture and also change the texture depth parameter in addition to the general thickness parameter. After that, we click on Apply. We can click on Edit, and I will switch back to the smooth surface. Going back to the connector mode, we also have the chance to apply minor connectors, adding multiple smaller elements to connect all the different parts of our partial design, so it's later going to be merged seamlessly into one object. Once done, we click on Save. So if this were a regular metal framework without a STEGO, we would click on Next. And as you can see, everything gets merged and you can start freeforming your partial. But since that is not the case, we go back. Okay, so now we focus on the fourth quadrant, creating our STEGO. We start off by first designing our Gingiva base. So here we draw our margin line. To the right, we find the same parameters as in the denture module. Once the gingiva is generated, we can jump into modeling and activate free modulation for the gingiva to start applying and removing material. You don't need to be afraid of adding material towards the model, because the partial planner always cuts your objects automatically with the blockout. Now, we just make sure that we don't cover the finish line too much with our tissue, since later we get a cleaner cut with the partial. Once the freeform is done, we go back to the main mode and right-click on the Gingiva to open up the Build Denture function. Build Denture basically lets us take a detour into the denture module for our tooth denture connection. We can either use dies or the retention connection. I make sure to activate the settings for all teeth, and then I also move the retention height down to 0 since it is not necessary. Additionally, I will also decrease the ditch depth to have more vertical space for the STEGO bar later on. After that has been done, we go back into Grid, where we have the option to switch to STEGO, which allows us to create a support bar under our free end. I make the teeth and denture base a bit transparent, draw a line and make sure to connect it with our finish line. As you see, we have two vertical limitations: the denture above and the resin gap to the blockout below, so make sure that you have enough vertical space for the bar. Then we can change the resin gap and the width of it, while the thickness is always being defined by those two upper and lower limitations. The same shortcuts from the clasps also apply to the STEGO. Make sure your metal is not visible from the buccal side. We can also change the insert direction, making it easier to avoid those areas. I make sure to change the inclination as well, so we can later insert the denture base from below without any undercuts. Once our bar is positioned, we click on Save. Now we can also add some retentions for our grid area. Here we have the possibility to place one of 3 different retention shapes via left click onto our object. With Shift and Scroll, we can scale them. Another tool which we can use in the partial mode is the Draw function. Draw allows us to draw in 3D with a brush or margin directly on or below any surface, making it one of the most versatile tools in the software. If we click on Below Surface, whichever object we select, we can then draw below it. The same applies to Up, allowing us, for example, to create a quick cementation guide. The other use is drawing on the surface, which is basically just a waxing tool where you can apply material wherever you need a bit more strength. Now, with all the elements of our partial framework designed, let's go into the Split Unite function. Here we have the option to punch out teeth and/or Gingiva from Gingiva and/or elements with split. Or we can unite our objects by simply selecting them via left click. Once they are blue, you can click on Apply. After united, we can now go into modeling and start the freeforming of our framework. Make sure to deactivate the Gingiva and teeth modulation. If we activate the contour protections, the outer shape of our elements is always protected. If we deactivate it, we can add material outside of the contour while it's still being cut by the blockout model. I will speed this part up a bit to save some time for you guys. Basically, all I do is smooth the transition areas, round off edges, and increase or decrease the thickness on certain areas. Once our partial and denture segment is shaped, we go back to the elements. I will now choose the STEGO in the group window and right-click to edit. Giving us the chance to click on Create STEGO. The software will now automatically punch out the partial elements from the denture, giving us the possibility to mill and glue the Gingiva base from below and the teeth from the top like a dental sandwich. This can also be done via the split function. Speaking about the split function, let's click on Save and open it up. We can use split teeth with elements to create our pontics on the third quadrant. Additionally, we also have split parameters you can set, together with a blockout. Once the pontics are made, we go into modeling and smooth off some of the sharp edges. Now we click on Next and our partial is complete. In this step, the other free-forming screen will open up along with the automatic merge of all the partial elements, like you have seen before. But since we have already done that, we can now skip this step and click on Finish. We can do one last check of our partial framework. Okay, now we click on Save, and then use Continue Working to design the upper Flexmon partial. We go back into the Partial Planner module, this time choosing Upper Jaw. We select the insert direction, allow some undercuts, click on Apply, and after smoothing out the proximal areas a little bit, we click on Next. At this stage, we now once again start with our clasps. For the metal-free Flexmon partials, we use the margin tool since it's a bit easier for this workflow. We need a wider surface and we need to make them a bit thicker and shorter than our usual metal clasps because we need to achieve some sort of stiffness. Otherwise, it would be too bendy, and we would not have a lot of retention. Always look at the lower jaw as well to ensure we have the room for our occlusal stops. We can then later manually free-form the clasps if they seem too long or too thin in certain areas. The next step for us is to draw the gingivas for both sides. Once generated, we once again jump into modeling, activate the Gingiva free modulation, and design our dentures. After shaping, we then open up the Build Denture function again and once again create our alveolar connection. Then we go into the connector mode, and we draw our palatal plate for this type of partial. After the outer margin has been drawn, we now continue and define the inner margin of our plate. Here, we then choose the thickness parameter, making sure it's thick enough to have a certain stiffness. Then we go into the unite function, and we can now unite the teeth with the clasps. After that has been done, we can freeform these two objects. So we go into modeling and start applying and smoothing some material to the connection between the clasps and teeth to make everything more strong and stable. We also fill up the interdental areas so everything becomes millable, making sure your smallest burr can enter these interdental spaces. Then we go back to the split function and punch out our newly formed structures from the gingivas to make some room for the smoothed out clasp areas and the widened interdental areas. In the same step, we also unite our palatal plate with the two Gingiva objects. After that has been done, we go back to the main partial design step. Now, very important, we need to right-click on the tooth elements and select them as non-mergeable external. Otherwise, in the next step, you would accidentally unify them into a single piece with the palatal plate. Our Flexmon is now almost done. All that is left is to click on Next and start the smoothing and shaping of our main body. Once done, we click on Finish, where we are now able to finalize and save our reconstruction. After a last check with the upper and lower partials that we have designed, everything is placed into our archive folder. We can now proceed with the milling or printing of our objects. I hope you have enjoyed this video and that you have learned some tricks that you can apply in your daily work with the modifier. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, and I wish you all a nice remainder of the week. Goodbye.